I know that in the United States of America, this has been a very challenging week. There's been a lot of angst on one side, relief on the other, and broken relationships across the spectrum. I mean, just a ton. Some families, everybody voted the same way, and so maybe that doesn't exist. But most of the people I know in my life don't just have neighbors that didn't vote the way they did. They have family members, parents, cousins, aunts and uncles, children, whoever it is. And there has been an enormous rift created because whoever voted each way, because this was such a polarizing election, we feel like it's almost a personal insult or attack that the person did the opposite of what we expected them to do. And everyone has their reasons for why the vote they made was the one that's going to save and protect America. Everyone. Even if we think the reasons of the other side are ridiculous. And here's what I want you to understand. I can't do anything about it. I'm not going to fix your families, fix your neighborhoods, fix your friends. That's not my job. It's certainly the job of each of us in our own context. But there is one context that I have some say over, and it's Brave Writer. And in my world, when you're in the Brave Writer world, literally you're welcome here. Whatever you did, however you voted, whatever your views are that are different than mine or different than one another. And part of what I hope is the legacy from what I offer in homeschooling. And I mean this sincerely. I've spent my life dedicated to homeschooling and to online conversation. Literally everyone who knows me knows that that is all I've been doing since the minute the doors of the internet opened. I have spent my life here. I have dedicated time and energy, excessive, absurd amounts of time to online conversation. I have been in communities where it looked like we all had the identical beliefs, only to discover that on some nitpicky hair razor thin issue, we could go to war and injure each other. We could literally eviscerate the relationship we had carefully built over one detail. One small piece of do you take communion if you are 10 or if you are 25 and with what elements, like those kinds of picky conversations, because that was the tight kind of community I was in. We were really close, really homogeneous, and yet we still found ways to completely alienate each other. When you are in a period of your life where your own sense of well-being and security are threatened, the temptation is to double down on what you believe to be true, on what you know to be true, in order to create safety for yourself. And believe me, lots of us have been there. My peer group, my age group, we started on the internet before we had the word troll. Some of us invented trolling. And that's just trolling. I'm not even talking about sincerely held beliefs that you would die for. When we get into the level of wanting things to be the way they need to be because we've spent so much emotional energy invested in those views, it is very, very difficult to make space for, to expand, to include the sincere people that differ with you. And here's the thing. In the world that I inhabit anyway, this brave writery world, this homeschooling world, even the people who see things extremely different than me, I kind of get where they're coming from. I know your hearts. I know your hearts. People don't embark on homeschooling without a sincerity behind them. I've talked before even about the moms, the young moms and dads I know who were raised in homeschooling families by my peer group in ways that have left them shattered, left them angry, left them hurt. And yet I can see behind too to what was motivating that choice and why they followed the teachings they followed. Because at the core of it, everybody is just out erector set building a shape to hold who they are. And sometimes they do that in extremely unhelpful ways, hurtful ways. But that's across the political spectrum, by the way. It's not just on one side. So this morning, what I want to say is this. I don't control any of the Brave Writers subgroups, whether it's on Facebook or you're communicating through email or you're forming your own little groups for coffee in your local cities. Those are not under my control, jurisdiction. That's not what I'm about. The only places that Brave Writer has any relationship to me are the ones that I run. So the Brave Schoolers, Brave Scopes group on Facebook, this page, the Homeschool Alliance, the classes that my teachers teach for Brave Writer. In those spaces, you're welcome, as you are. And part of what I hope we're building for the sake of our families is the capacity to see the other point of view. You know why that's critical? Because it makes good writers. You thought I was going to say something high-minded, didn't you? No, because this is a writing company. And writing is about the core of who you are. And if you cannot have access to that, if someone is shutting you down, telling you you cannot speak the truth that currently inhabits you, it is not possible to be a good writer. Writing comes from the truth. It doesn't come from the falsehoods. It doesn't come from hiding. It comes from being able to access your inner life. And one of the ways that we facilitate great writing in Brave Writer is to help develop the rhetorical imagination, which includes and holds a variety of perspectives simultaneously, dispassionately, for the sake of expanding the opportunities in writing, expanding the opportunities in depth and thinking. You cannot think without having a big palette of options. And the only way to get there is to create space to learn from a variety of perspectives, to have your own thinking challenged. That's the academic task. And you wouldn't be homeschooling if you didn't care about the academic task. But that is the goal of it. That's the goal of university. It's the goal of grad school. And adults who care about the academic task have already signed on to learn about things they don't necessarily agree with and to be able to hold them dispassionately. Do you know what that means? That means to not only argue with them. It's the hardest thing any brain will ever do. And I've had all of the ways that I understand the world challenged repeatedly in my 30 years of adulthood. And it's been the most life-giving and life-expanding journey. So, if you're up for it, Brave Writer's a great place to do it. If you're up for it, you don't have to be. You don't have to choose the world of academia as your thing. You don't have to believe in developing a rhetorical imagination. It doesn't have to be your thing. But if it is your thing, or if you're hanging out in this community, it's our thing. It's what we're about. And I hope that it creates people who have both the capacity to hold on to what they think is important and to create space to understand what others think is important, because that's what creates the most dynamic writing, creates the best contributions that we can make when we use our writing voices. So that's what we're about. And so in my space, I will be a fierce mama to protect the right of people to express their point of view. But you also might feel challenged from time to time, because there will be people in our community who are going to say things that are not comfortable. And all I ask for is that we act and behave respectfully, that we transcend and include. We don't go toe-to-toe. We don't use the internet as a whip. That's a horrible place to be. I have spent way too many weeks, hours, days in tears in front of a computer screen over best friends, and we've been in major bloodbaths. And I will say this, some of this is just developmental. 30-year-olds, people in their 30s, oh my gosh, even 40s, you're still figuring it out. Everybody gets so heated. You get to your 50s and everyone's had the living life kicked out of them. I was going to use a different word, but I'm not gonna, because you got kids watching. Yeah. And by the time you get kicked around a bit, you come back to some of those friends and you're like, oh yeah, okay, sorry, I remember and I get it. And weirdly, my group, the group that we spent the most time arguing, we're all back together. We had to take about a 7-year hiatus. And we're kind of all back together on Facebook now, and we love each other. And there is like this really amazing depth and empathy from the years of fighting. I'm just going to say the truth of that. We fought, we fought, we fought, we fought, we loved, we loved, we loved, we laughed, we laughed, we laughed. We watched movies, we looked at art, we traveled to see each other, and then we hated each other. And then we all broke up. We just like broke up. And now we're all back on Facebook. We've had retreats. Some of those women are my very best friends. We all understand each other. We've all been through so much hell because life just is relentless and it doesn't let you get what you want out of it just because you have good ideals. It's amazing how that's just the way it is. And so, you know, you hit your 50s and you're like, deep breath. Okay, we ready to read? Guess what day 40's title is? Time to Reinvent. Oh, it's too funny. Too funny. All right, let's go. We ready? Okay, one more drink of water so I don't sound like a frog. Though I kind of look like one today in my little green outfit. Okay, here we go. Day 40, time to reinvent. Have you ever noticed that you reinvent homeschool every year? You would think, particularly after having one child go through a certain grade level, that when the next child in line hits that age and stage, you'd have it all dialed. You'd pull out your notes, books, and memories from the first kid and apply them as a template for the next one. Yet it rarely works that way. Instead, the next child comes down the pike and you find yourself doubting the old tricks and books. You've since heard of a sparkly new program that teaches itself and you want to try it. This child is so different from the last one that the old way just wouldn't work. Sometimes you'll be 3 children in and realize that you never did like that math curriculum, and now that you've figured it out, you can't spend one more day looking at that hideously designed book with its awful colors and nonsense explanations, no matter how much you spent on it. As you grow in your career of home education, you also get smarter. What satisfied you the first year often feels cramped or schoolish to the new brave you that sees learning through new eyes. You feel freer to risk, to try avant-garde strategies. You stop quantifying the hours of the day and allow yourself to count card games and nature hikes as part of your children's education. A mother of 9 children, 2 of them grown and raising their own kids, said over the phone that she was unsure what writing program to buy. She'd already successfully reared, homeschooled, and married off 2 kids, yet was not quite sure if she had the best writing plan for the last 2 still at home. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that the way it is? If anyone should be at ease in this home education business, you'd think it would be a mother who could reassure herself that with 2 successful homeschool grads, she must be doing a good enough job with the tools she's already got. But that's not how it works. The truth is, we homeschooling mothers are on a never-ending campaign to do right by our children. That means we tirelessly turn over rocks looking for the next best, rightest, brightest choice for this specific child at this specific stage of life. Not only that, we're a part of the equation too. We want to be stimulated. We look for triggers for our creativity. We feed our learning curve new ideas and philosophies. We expand our sense of fun and imagination, and we want reassurance that we are making measurable progress with our children. To that end, homeschooling parents reinvent their homeschools every single year. It's a part of the warp and woof of this lifestyle. It's what enables parents to sustain 20-year commitments. It's what creates tailor-made educations that accommodate the wide variety of people in our families. As you spend time researching what you'll do next year, allow yourself to go on the adventure of reinvention. Ask yourself 5 questions to stimulate your thinking. And this, by the way, really, I'm talking about next winter, starting in January. We re-up every time we complete a semester, don't we? As you move into the holidays, your routine is going to soften and slacken. And then you're going to think, oh, I got to get back in gear in January. So here are 5 guidelines for you as you spend some time thinking about what that looks like, okay? Number 1, what works? How do I feel about it? If it works, you don't necessarily have to change it. But if it works and you are sick of it, or the child is bored, or you're just going through the motions, it's fine to change it up, even if it's working, in theory. Number 2, what's not working? What can I do about it? If it's not working, you may need more than a new book. You may need a whole new perspective or view of how to work with this particular subject. Read about the philosophy of education with regard to this subject area and shift how you see it. If you need help with that, join the Homeschool Alliance, CoachJulieBogart.com. That's what we do every month of the year. Number 3, what do I wish I were doing that I'm not doing? Try doing it for a month or more to see. Take a small bite of the apple. You don't have to take it in all the way yet. Number 4, what am I doing that I wish I weren't? Can you give it up for a week or a month? Or reduce it to just a couple times a week. See how that feels? Take a break. And number 5, what do my kids wish we were doing that we weren't? Get it on the schedule. Plan it, do it. Do not keep putting that off. Enjoy reinvention. No guilt, no self-doubt. It's one of the many great rewards and satisfactions of being a career home educator. Quote of the day. Coming to the end of this first full year of homeschooling, I needed that pep talk. I want to go out on a limb and do some things on my own, and am unsure about some things, wondering if they're working and what my children need. I think they'll survive, though. Amanda Austin Randolph. Sustaining thought. Take on the adventure of reinvention and see where it takes you and your kids. Jessica says, the main thing I wish I weren't doing is getting frustrated and yelling. Yelling and frustration are massive warning signs to you that you are not doing the right things, that the program you are using isn't working, or that you as a parent have not yet understood the principles of your parent-child dynamic that sustain trust and a sense of cooperation. This is probably the most critical part of home education training that no one does, and that is really important to the happiness of your family, not just you. Because I know if you say that yelling and getting frustrated is not the best life you were hoping for when you signed up for homeschooling. If this is you, I admire your courage. Jessica, thank you for posting this, because you are not alone. It is widespread. It is the big invisible education going on in homeschools today. The amount of yelling, shaming, blaming, and frustration. The amount of not actually doing anything related to homeschool to avoid yelling, shaming, blaming. This happens everywhere. You are not alone. And it is one of my passions to talk about the parent-child dynamic. Why? Because I'm a writing company. And kids don't write if they aren't safe for taking writing risks, if they don't sense that they're in a partnership with their parent. But here's the good news. Those same skills bleed over into every other aspect of education once you get the hang of it. Once you start to recognize what it takes to model and promote cooperation, what it takes for you to get behind the eyes of your child and know their experience and support and nourish them right where the pain point is happening. Again, we do this every month in the Homeschool Alliance. I also, weirdly and amazingly, much to the chagrin of my entire Brave Writer team, I answer the phone, I answer email, I answer posts in Facebook Live, in Facebook. And I won't even be able to always do that. We are racking our brains for ways for me to address these needs because they're rampant. Everybody has them. And it's not like I have the only answer. It's just that I have access to so many more people's experiences because I'm in this unique, weird position of talking to homeschoolers 100% of my life. And between that and my own reading and insane numbers of hours in therapy and going through the pain of divorce 2 times in my life, like I've just accumulated some skills in this area. And I've assembled a team and we've trained them to address those pain points. So literally, if you are looking for a way to create more peace and harmony in your family, get involved with us somewhere. Take a class, read the blog, watch my YouTubes, stay on this page, join our Brave Scopes group, join the Homeschool Alliance, and get the kind of real coaching that you're craving. And don't just keep recycling new tools for spelling. Actually change the whole dynamic. See your family and homeschooling differently. That would be my advice. And I am rooting for you. Anyone who's aware that getting frustrated and yelling isn't working is already starting to turn a corner. And one place that I would recommend that has nothing to do with me right off the bat is go buy the book, Siblings Without Rivalry. And you will be amazed at how much you learn from that book. Also, their companion book, How to Talk So Kids Will Listen, and Listen So Kids Will Talk. It's by Adele Faber and Elaine Maslish. I will put the links in the comments when this is over. Yes, good can be cultivated out of frustration. We always start with honesty. You know what I said this morning? What did I say before we even got going? Where we were talking about the way we treat each other in our online communities. Same's true with kids. Everybody yells and gets frustrated when they don't feel heard. It's what they do. And if they feel like their point of view is threatened, they put up walls. So the same dynamic's happening in homeschool. You have this beautiful, shiny vision. You know, you've been reading all the blog posts about Charlotte Mason and you've read her whole original series. And then you pull out this book that is on the list and you think is going to be fabulous and your kids are yawning and they don't want to hear it. Well, that's awful for you. You're having fun. How fair is it that your children who you're spending your life on aren't grateful and excited about the same things as you are? How disappointing that you don't get to be the classical educator you wanted to be because you've got 3 kinesthetic boys who don't want to sit down and read about ancient Greece. That's so disappointing. So what do? We yell. We get frustrated. We try to enroll them on our team because we want to be happy, right? If they would just do the things we were assigning them, we'd feel better. But they don't feel good. So we got to start there. They don't feel good. They're not ready. They don't want to, right? So keep thinking about how you are building this culture in your family. Reinvention is about a few things, and let's just name them. 1, it's addressing pain points. Where everybody's having pain, you're going to address them meaningfully. Either, like last night we said in our Homeschool Alliance web conference, Mary Wilson shared about how in her family, her daughter didn't necessarily change the math book. She just changed the time of day she did math. Because if she did it first thing in the morning, she was alert, she had stamina and energy, and she could work on her hardest subject. So that's what she did. It didn't necessarily mean she had to can the whole curriculum or start throwing parties around math. She just figured out a way to reinvent the experience of it for her daughter. That's what I'm talking about. Reinvention is first and foremost addressing pain points. But one of the pain points we often ignore is boredom, tedium. If people are not enjoying what they're doing, or if you're sick of teaching the same program over and over, you have my permission to ditch it, to get something new just to wake up the whole enthusiasm level of the family again. There's no law that says if it works, you have to do it. If it works because it's interesting as well. It's okay to say that I'm bored, and even though this has been successful in the past, I'm curious if there's another way to do it that would re-stimulate me, the homeschool mother. And when you have 5 and 6 and 8 kids, of course you need to do that. You cannot necessarily just chug through the same program 8 times. That's really tiring. Plus, you're growing, changing, learning, and your kids, every year, it's a different constellation of family, right? You've got some who went off to college and some who are no longer toddlers, and you've got kids who've got different appetites. You know, I thought my all my kids would go to this incredible Shakespeare camp that we found in Cincinnati. Every summer, I imagined it because my two oldest loved it. So we took Jacob and put him in, and when the week was over, he's like, meh, it wasn't for me. And my older two kids were like, what? That was the best thing we've ever done in our lives. And they continued to act with the company around the year, around the full school year. And Jacob was like, not really for me. And the younger two showed no interest. And that was a loss for me because I loved what my oldest two got out of this Shakespeare company. But it was a season. They were different kinds of children than the other three. And those other three unwittingly led me on other journeys that were so fantastic. And I didn't end up doing Shakespeare 5 times in that way. They all love Shakespeare. We go to the plays, we watch the movies, we read the stories. But they didn't have to join the Shakespeare camp and the groundlings to prove it to me. They had other things they wanted to do. Marching band, chess club, lacrosse, fashion. And those were adventures as well. So yes, it's okay to keep your family from boredom. It's okay for not everyone to do the same things. And it's okay. We've talked about pain. We've talked about boredom. It's also okay to look at what you've been doing and not think it was good enough. Now that you've discovered what is, and not feel guilty that you didn't figure it out sooner. You can only figure out what you figure out. You can't know what you don't know. So if you're at the tail end and you've just discovered Brave Writer and you wish you had done it with your other 6 kids, you know what's going to happen with this 7th kid? Your life is going to change. And so is your child's. And the 2 of you are going to be new, different people because of writing and because of Brave Writer and because of what you learn here. And that is going to infect the way you communicate through texting, through your blog, through your conversations, through the Christmas cards you send them or the birthday cards you write to them. Your family will be changed in a backwards trajectory because you're a different person, whatever newness you bring in. So you don't have to get it all done with everybody and know what to do starting at age 5, because this is a living, breathing organism, this you that you are, this family that you are, you know? And so at any point, this is what's so amazing, at any point, reform and transformation is possible. My kids are all adults now. They're in college, 2 of them. 3 of them are out. One's in grad school. He's a law student. One's a computer programmer, and the other is my daughter who travels the globe and will start a social work program a year from now as a master's student. And you know what? I feel like we are still a homeschooling family. Noah came over on my birthday and taught us all a brand new game. Johanna comes home and has shared with me political systems and cultural habits of 7 different countries in South America. Jacob is in law school and learning an entire new vocabulary around human rights and law. And when we talk, my own brain is exploding with enrichment and expansion. Liam is studying the great books at St. John's College in Annapolis and will travel to France in the 2nd semester and is telling me the ways that this education intersects with his career aspirations. And Katrin, who I just visited in Paris, helped me see Paris that I've been to 8 times with brand new eyes because I got to see her experience of Paris. This is your journey and gift as a home educator. It never stops. There is no end point. And the best part is this. There is a moment when it flips and you're the student and your alumni are taking you on the wildest academic, educational, life-expanding journey. And it comes because they learned how to learn, not because you found the right program when they were 5. You gave them the gift of self-directed learning, and they are going to give it back to you, I promise. It's so awesome, so awesome. Noah and Liam have a joke about me. I only found this out on my birthday. And they said this, I find computers an absolute mystery. I still don't get how televisions work. I really don't get how electricity works. And so I am famous, apparently, for saying to each of them at different moments, Yeah, but really, how does the computer work? Like, I don't get how you say you're coding, but how does the coding even show up on the screen? And how is it actually telling the computer what to do? Like, I really don't get it. And then they'll start to explain, and then I ask follow-up questions. Yeah, but I don't get how electricity actually makes that thing pop up and show. And they're like, okay. And then they dive in again. So here's their joke about me. I ask all the right questions and I ask them very accurately, but I'm not quite able to understand any of the answers they give me. And so Noah has decided that his mission in life is to find an adequate answer for me, that I will finally get it, the lights will come on. I just had a wave of emotion. Oh my gosh, that I didn't get until I said it to you all. Isn't that what you're doing right now for your kids? Can't we have that kind of dedication? Our kids are giving us questions and information every day that if we took them seriously and said, it is my life's work to get you where you need to be, for you to actually have the epiphany that math mattered, that writing was important, that a knowledge of history makes you an informed citizen and a good voter, that understanding world religions will help you be more compassionate and a generous human being, that if these are those issues that we care the most about and they don't get it, can't we be like Noah? You're asking the right things. You're giving me the truthful feedback. I see you're not getting it. It's not your fault. My goal is to stay alert and find the resources and answers that will make the light go on for you, Mom. Oh, gosh. What a morning. What a week. Oh, my heavens. Oh, my heavens. Sometimes it is almost unbearable to be a human being. You know what I mean? It has so much richness and so much pain, and the two commingle all the time. And we have the opportunity sometimes to be the person who gives love when we cause the pain, or when we see the pain, or when we see others causing the pain. And then sometimes it takes even more courage to admit that you're in pain instead of attacking, instead of yelling, instead of showing frustration, but to say, right now, I am not doing very well. I'm not holding it together very well. I want to love you. I want to hear you. I want to actually believe that you're a good person. And so I'm going to take a break from you, my darling child, my best friend online, my husband, my father, while I regroup and find you again, the person I love. And then we're going to figure it out together, whatever the it is. And you know what? There is never a moment where it all makes sense, all the way down. Because if you're a unique human being, no one ever has full access to your database except you. We're all, free radicals, I like to say. Human beings are free radicals. You can't always predict what they're going to do. Yeah, I could use a hug, Lloyd, sure. I'm all about them this week. Everybody needs hugs. Let's all just have a big hug fest for the rest of the week, the weekend. But what I'm going to do that hugs me is I'm going to go run. And we have now done, a half hour of conversation. So let's get on with the day. I love all of you. This has been an amazing week. Thank you for being wonderful people to each other in all the places I hang out. Thank you for making the Brave Writer Facebook page and Facebook group a safe place to be who you are. We expect that of you, and I'm glad that you rise to that occasion, and I think it's the best way to live. So, and that's my bias. You are free to have a different opinion. I will see you later. Mwah. Live honestly, write bravely, love fiercely.